know there are a few that are still entering, but some of you who knew my mom, she was pretty punctual. She was super angry with us because we were late for school a lot. And we had to walk, so it wasn't even her fault, right? So I'm going to go ahead and begin. I want to welcome all of you for coming. And what an amazing turnout. I'm so appreciative for you to be here. As people enter, they're going to find a place to sit, so if you need to squeeze in for each other, please do. The other thing is, just out of respect for Bev and the family, I'm hoping that everybody remembered to put their phones on silent so that we're not getting unexpected calls during this service. So again, thank you that we're all here together to share in this service celebrating the life of Beverly Eugenia Price. To family and friends who are unable to attend, though, I'm confident that their ability to live stream, so I'm hoping they're with us not only in spirit, but hopefully virtually also, that the remote streaming is functioning. So everybody, I want you to cross your fingers. How many fingers do we have? Make sure that we're saying a prayer that this is functioning well. For those of you that knew her, so those of you that knew Beverly, and I'm making the assumption that most of us in this room did, that we knew that she was always the person that made you feel warm and welcome wherever you went. That was part of her strengths and personalities, that when you met her, you just thought she was the sweetest thing ever. Now, sometimes, as daughters, we've had different opinions on that, but 99% of the time, when you met my mom and spent time with her, you felt warm and welcomed. Mom herself, that she was motivated for her life primarily, in my opinion, off of the verse Matthew 25:40. And that verse happens to state, "Whatever you did for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." I'm going to ask for those that are capable of standing, for us to stand for our opening prayer, and then we'll be seated and we're going to start our program today.
Please pray with me. Heavenly Father, we praise you for who you are, all that you do. We give you the glory for a life well lived in Beverly, that we might use her example of her love for family, love for others, and care for others. As you give us the example of Jesus, your Son, loving us, at times even when we can't love ourselves. Lord, and we praise you, we give you the glory for all that you do in our lives, and we thank you so much for Beverly touching every life that she touched, whether that would be family or people she cared for. They were special in her heart, and we know she was special in your heart, as we all are. So, Father, thank you, we praise you, and may we shine that light that you give us so other people can see. In Jesus' name, amen.
For this scripture reading, I will be reading Psalms 18:30 through 35, and I have put a few of my own words in it to what it means to me. As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is pure. God is a shield to all those who trust him and take refuge in him. For who is God but the Lord? And who is a rock? Only our God. God has clothed me with strength and makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer and sets me securely on a high place. He teaches my hands to war so that a bow of steel is broken by my arms. God has given me the shield of his salvation, and his right hand upholds me, and his humility exalts me.
So far, we're doing everything in the perfect order, don't you think? I have to tell you, every time I watch those pictures, I think I look younger every day. That's not fully true. But I have to tell you, those photos were awesome to me because I had to participate in the preparation of that slideshow. And I have to tell you, seeing pictures of my mom with those great grandbabies that are now young adults is shocking. I mean, her life was long and full. So I love that. I am going to go with some photo prompts that are going to hopefully keep me on task so that you get to go home tonight. So we're starting with this picture. Now I'm going to let you know that my daughter-in-law, I have 2 biological sons, and I have an older stepdaughter. Now, my biological boys are an embarrassment to their mother, intentionally. So, with that being said, I'm going to share a story about them, intending to embarrass them right back, because they're watching live stream today. But my daughter-in-law helped me with the slideshow, and she said, Lauren, are you sure you want this picture in the slideshow? And I said, I do, because there's a story behind this photo. This photo was taken about 1.5 years ago. My mom and sister and I were traveling back from Washington State to Montana to do a transition from my mom from our home to Susan. Now, we had to stop at a hotel for the night. And my mom typically liked to use the facilities more than once. So somebody had to share a bed with her. And my generous young sister here said, I think you would be an adorable companion for your mother. And I thought, okay. So I told my mom, I said, Mom, tonight you and I get to cuddle. And she looked at me like, what? I said, Mom, when my oldest was away at college, he would call and say, Mom, I'm coming home for the weekend. At that time, my 2 boys and I were living in 2 rooms at my sister's house, so the boys had to share a room when Elias came home, and they had to share a full-size bed. Now, does anybody know the size of a full-size bed? Not that big. If you have 2 adult young men in a full-size bed, it's very cozy. So Elias called me. He's like, Mom, I'm coming home for the weekend. And I said, oh, I'm so excited I get to see you. And he said, tell Tristan to get ready to cuddle. And I didn't know what to think. I thought, what kind of conversation are we having, right? And I said, does he like that? And Elias, with no hesitation, said, no. He hates it. Because as the older brother, he knew how to manipulate his younger brother. So when he came home to visit and they had this full-size bed to share, Elias would get in on the side and slowly extend himself out, where Tristan got closer and closer to the edge of the bed. Every morning, Tristan was on the floor, no longer in the bed. And Elias said, that's absolutely my intent. So with this picture, I told my mom, Mom, you and I get to cuddle tonight. And I explained to her the story about cuddling. And I said, we should take a picture and I'll send it to the boys. Well, the funniest part about this is I was kind of just kidding, right? Was I really going to follow through with that? This photo, literally, Mom and I got into bed, and she says, are you taking that picture? So I want you to know my mom is all about cuddling. So anyway, so I always like to start a story that hopefully has some relevance in our lives and shines something about my mom's personality and temperament. Because as my mother aged, she got more and more entertaining, just so you know. So let's move to the next slide. So I do want to talk a little bit about the life of my mom. My mom had an incredible life. In fact, my daughter-in-law said I had no idea that Grandma was this amazing. What an amazing woman for her generation. She went to school. She got certified as a registered nurse. She later continued her education and became a nurse practitioner. She was an amazing nurse. She was intelligent and thoughtful and kind and intuitive with every patient she interacted with. So I love that part about my mom, and it carried through all through her life. Now, as an older adult, if you took my mom to the doctor, it was a little challenging because she always had something to share that may or may not be medically accurate at this day and time. But, and wasn't she beautiful? I'm telling you, I look at these photos and I'm always amazed at what a beautiful person she was. So we're going to go to the next photo. This one is part of my favorites because it's one of the things that's least known about my mom. My mom was a single-engine pilot, and she flew multiple different types of single-engine planes. So that seemed quite unusual for a female pilot in the day when we were growing up. Now, I'd like to tell you this was a long, innate desire in my mom's heart to become a pilot. That's not really true. My dad, my biological dad, was a diabetic, and he wanted to fly. Back in the day, he could not become certified, get a certified pilot's license because of his diabetes and the potential for an insulin reaction while he was flying. So he needed a licensed pilot to fly with him. Well, Bev, what are you doing? So amazingly enough, she did. She's all for that. She went to flight school, she did all of that, and she became a pilot. Now, there is an article that was written about her a number of years ago, and I can't remember in the article if they were specific about the fact that my mom was a pilot of single-engine planes, and she happened to, I think she may have crashed 2 of them. No, let me rephrase that, emergency landings, right? So one time, I know specifically, she had 2 tanks in her plane, and she couldn't get the gas tank to turn over from one tank to the other, so she literally ran out of gas. So my mom had stories to tell about flying, which was incredible. Now, even though that was not my mom's initial thought, it was a trait and a legacy that she passed down. My beautiful older sister, Annie, she soloed her first flight when she was 16 at a very young age. And I remember that because I was incredibly proud, but also incredibly scared that she may not land well. But she did a great job, great takeoff, great landing. Okay, let's go to the next picture. So, have any of you here partied with my mom? Oh, I have a hand in the back. Just one, seriously. If you're having a graduation celebration, a wedding, a funeral for that matter, it can be graduation, wedding, anything. You just make something up. If you invite Bev, she will come. She will drive long distances to be at your celebratory event. And I have proof of that because she has traveled to both of my children's weddings, all of their graduations. But she will, if nothing else, she will show up. Now, that is one thing that I try to encourage in my family with my children. And my oldest, just so you know, he did call me Wednesday when I was getting ready to fly out, and he said, Mom, he said, we can't make it. And they live, he and his wife, and they have a little 1.5-year baby girl, live in Boise, Idaho. And he said, we can't get there quick enough. And I said, it's okay, we'll do something for you. And they did text me and tell me that their live streaming is working well. So my boys are here in spirit, but that is one of the things that my mom, a trait and a legacy that she has passed down. If nothing else, be intentional about showing up. So if it is a celebration, be there. If it's a time of sadness and grief where you get to share in that and bring comfort, be there. So that was also a trait of my mom's. Oh, see, this is some of the pictures. This is my mom partying away. Can you not tell? So the one on your left is myself at my oldest son's wedding, which was a few years ago. And then the one on the right was when Taryn graduated from high school, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah. But she would not miss out. I mean, that woman was persistent. She would sleep in her car if that's what it took to come to your party. So this was at my youngest wedding. He got married about, a year ago? Is that right? Am I confused? 2 years ago. Now, he cannot come because he has a brand new infant that my mom has only gotten to see in pictures. But it's another joy that her legacy is going to continue on through the next and the next and the next generation. Family. Oh my goodness. My mom was all about family. So much that she was about family that she could not take enough pictures. She had a camera attached to her hip for every single event. When I got married, just so you know, it was a number of years ago, I banned my mother from bringing her camera. Because she would literally, during this ceremony, I swear to God, she would be in the aisle trying to take your picture to make sure that she captured that moment. But family was so important to my mother, not only her immediate family, but her extended family. She was also very, very close to her siblings. Okay, this is like, you didn't know she had such a wild side, right? Look at this. I am wearing a cowboy hat and those glasses. I wanted to know where she found those. Who went shopping with my mom to buy those glasses? Oh, my sister confesses, right? I'm surprised they didn't have rhinestones on them, right? But my mom had so much fun later in life choosing to enjoy and celebrate what God had given her. Okay, she wore many hats. We all wear so many hats in life. One of the most important hats that my mom wore, which was probably the one that was most challenging and did not always fit her well, was that of being a mom. How many of you have daughters? Oh, seriously? Only that many? How many of you were a daughter, right? Oh my goodness, daughters are brutal. We're very kind and loving and generous, but we can be difficult for our parents. I do have to say God gifted me with 2 boys. Honestly, though, I came from a family of girls. When I had my first child, we didn't know what sex we were going to have, and here it pops out. It's a little boy. We named him Elias. Great, wonderful. And I'm thinking, I don't know what to do with this child because I had not been raised with boys. But my mom, she had a lot of tenacity in her, and she was incredibly strong-willed, which is probably the thing that has sustained her all of her 91 years. We were not easy. Some of you may have gone to a Christian school. When we were growing up, there was kind of a dress code about the length of your skirts. And I don't know if my mom ever got calls multiple times during the day, but those skirts, if you're wearing a skirt, you can adjust the length of that skirt quite simply by 1 roll here, 2 roll there. But my mom survived all of that. And I have to say her strong-willed temperament is probably, I'm going to say, the thing that I admire about her the most. In 1972, there was a massive flood in Rapid City. I don't know if any of you were here during that period of time. It just literally destroyed sections of Rapid City and probably some of the most beautiful areas there. My mom was an avid volunteer with the Red Cross. She spearheaded much of that victim crisis intervention and helping them deal with not only the emotional and physical losses, but the loss of life, because many, many people died. My mom was engaged. She would pray with you at the drop of the hat. That woman, she knew Christ and was willing to share that with them. My mom in 1988, and someone can tell me if I have that date wrong, there were 2 major wildfires in the Black Hills. And one of those wildfires literally burned her house to the ground. There was nothing there. And I think I have a picture of Mom, maybe. Do I have the wildfire picture here? Oh, this is us. We're going to come back to this. Let's move a little bit forward. Yes. This is my mom, literally sifting through the debris of her home that burned to the ground. She had enough tenacity to go there, and she picked out anything that she could salvage from that site. And let me tell you, there was not much left. The other thing that I found very interesting that most of you do not know, my mom had brown hair. I mean, like really brown hair. After that fire, she woke up one morning, and most of you knew she had this flaming white, gray hair that was not intentional. But it literally happened overnight. Portions of her hair turned white. But I have to say, though, this is why I love my mom's strengths, because of the fact that she was there for others. She was willing to sift through the pieces of her life when that fire came through and slowly rebuild and put it back together. This happened before she met Chick. So she continued to choose to live a life and to move forward. I use my mom as an example in my life because there are difficulties that we all share. My boys, they lost their dad in 2005, so 20 years ago when they were 10 and 12. And honestly, I did not handle that well. I did not want to get up. I did not want to move forward. I did choose to shower, probably for the sakes of my boys that lived with me. But the reality is, it was a very difficult season. But my mom managed seasons of life of difficulty with grace and strength. And so I'm very appreciative that she led that example and shared it with us. I want to move back to pictures of my mom with, I got to tell you, this was one of the most fun events that we ever had. Look how willing my mom was to put her trust in us and lay across our laps. Do you think we could have dropped her? But she was confident that her girls were going to continue to hold on to her regardless of the circumstances. So this is one of my favorite photos. And again, we are so young, but this is very, very good. Now, I'm getting ready to wrap up because I want everybody to know, but we're going to move forward a little bit. My mom was a pretty avid gardener. She loved green things. Now, that is not a trait or a gift that she shared with me. I will kill plants unintentionally. They just die in my presence, right? Some people have the gift, some do not. Now, this is a gift and a trait that she has actively passed on to my oldest sister, Annie. If you go to her place, there is a vegetable garden and there are flowers everywhere. So my mom was all about handing down these gifts that God gave her and shared them with our family. There should be, this is the other gift that my mom shared with us. She gave me 3 sisters that are with me through thick and thin. So I love the fact that my mom was very anchored to her family and to her siblings, and she brought that into our life. My mom was also a very creative person, which typically you think she is so conservative and pretty straightforward in her structure of life, but she encouraged creativity. My mom always wanted one of us to be musically gifted. If I were to sing for you, some people would say that's cruel and unusual punishment, but that gift skipped a generation. I know that in my family, I have great, what would they be, great-grandchildren? What are they to me? My grandnieces and nephew are so musically talented. Nasiah played the piano. She's so gifted at that. I have additional piano players and musical instrument players in our family, so I know that my mom was very, very proud of that. On the creativity level, my sister Ruth is an avid. She can knit and crochet till the cows come home. So if you need something knitted or crocheted, you just look her up. Now, Annie sewed clothes for me, through many of my school years. We would go fabric shopping, and Annie would sew my school clothes for me. So if you need an outfit or wardrobe put together, Annie is the one to talk to. Now, Susan also has multiple gifts. She is an incredible caregiver, and she will volunteer to the 110th degree. So if you need something done or someone to show up, that will be Susan. Now, I was thinking about that. What is a gift that my mom shared with me, other than her being very strong-willed and her ability to persevere? Shockingly enough, my mom was pretty logical in her thinking, and I can pretty much put together almost anything. I can figure out a lot of mechanical or plumbing or even electrical. I'm a fairly good carpenter. Now, I do have to admit that if you're looking at some very specific wood pallet design, that would fall into Annie's category, just so that you know. Okay. This is my mom and her siblings. All of her siblings are still living, which is amazing to me. So she's the oldest, so she is clearing the path for them to know that their journey will be safe in the arms of Christ. And this is the Ward family. This was a reunion a few years back, and you can see how many people gathered to express their joy and time of fellowship together. And I don't know if I have any more pictures. Is that my last one? That is my last one. I'm so thankful that you all came, just so that I could share some of those small elements of my mom's life. She contributed a lot to people within her community and within her church family. She would volunteer, and all of those traits have been passed down, especially the ability to volunteer, to step up when there is a need. I've seen that in my boys. I've seen it in my nieces and nephew. My mom would be there at a drop of the hat whenever something was needed to be done. Now, my mom was she was a pretty decent cook. Maybe not a gourmet cook, but she was a good cook. And that's one of the things we still talk about, is some of those Sabbath afternoon casseroles that she would prepare, and how absolutely amazing it was. But if you were new to church, she would always invite you over. We would feed you. It would be a lot of food. That was her fear, to run out of food if you came to visit her. So with that being said, that's probably all the sharing that I need to do at this moment. We actually are going to have a special music at this point, but then following that music, we're going to do an open mic. So those of you that are here, I want you to think, was there a time, a story of, or a time with Beverly that you want to share? I want to hear that story, because I know how my mom impacted my life, but I would love to hear how she may have impacted yours.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that brought my heart to feel peace my fears relieved. How precious 'tis that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. The grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. To see in God's praise, then when we first begun, we've no less taste to see in God's praise than when we'd first begun.
For those of you who don't know me, I married Beverly's granddaughter, Erin. I met Beverly in the spring of 1999. Erin and I had been dating for a few months, and it was time to meet the family. No idea what I was expecting. And off we go to South Dakota in Erin's blue Plymouth Sundance. The thought of us actually making it there and back was sketchy at best. And I met Erin's mom. Nice lady. Then I met Erin's sister and was in her couch till 4 in the morning as she was preparing a cake for Layla's birthday the next morning. It was a rough start. And then I met Beverly, and I realized instantly that this was the foundation and the normalcy of this family. And she welcomed me with open arms as if I had known her forever. As time went on, I got to know Beverly quite well, and one thing was for certain. She loved unconditionally. She loved her family unconditionally. She loved everyone unconditionally, and she loved the Lord, without question. She made Sabbath such a big deal, and she made it fun to come to her house after church. Just last night, we were sharing funny stories of the family, with the family, and we were talking about root floats. That's what brought the topic up. And Grandma loved root beer floats. And we were talking about, so what else are we having for the meal? Well, we can't have a meal without goulash, because that was Grandma Bev's signature meal. It had to be goulash. And her biggest fear was running out of goulash and making sure that we ate enough of it. 2 to 3 to 4 servings at a minimum. I remember olives and salad and chocolate sandwiches on Sabbath evening. She made Sabbath a big deal, and I will always remember that. Now, we talk about Grandma's traits. So I just have to go back through my memories and think about her traits, and one of them was her fierce determination to set out to finish what she started. And she would have people at her house all the time. And some of those people, I'm like, because I worked in a career in law enforcement, and I'm like, okay, Grandma, I know they need the Lord too. And go team. When Grandma would call me, Grandma didn't call me to shoot the breeze. If I looked down at my phone and it said Grandma Bev, I knew something had gone sideways and she needed my help. Whether it be with a poor choice in vehicle purchasing, whether it be with a construction project that had gone sideways, or whatever the case may be, I would drop what I was doing and go help Grandma. Grandma Bev played an incredible role in my life, in my wife's life, in my children's life, and I greatly, greatly look forward to see her again soon in the kingdom someday. Amen. Okay, if there's anybody else that wants to come up, now is your turn. If not, raise your hand and I will bring the mic to you. Go ahead, come on up. We're trying to get everything on the live stream, but if you can't come up, I'm happy to bring the mic to you.
Yes, my name is Georgia, and Mama Bev was very important in my life. I was moving back from California and talked to Annie. I worked for Annie as a cook in Annie's daycare. And she said, my mom has a couple of extra bedrooms. And so I moved back and moved in with Mama Beth. And over the course of many years, I was in and out. I knew her before Papa Chick, and I knew her before the gray streak in her hair. But she was very precious to me and my son. And Susie and Mom visited a few weeks ago, and my son got to talk to her for the last time, and that meant a lot to him. And it meant a lot to me to get to see her one more time. I had been living in California for 15 years, so I missed a lot of years, but we did see her when we visited. Anyway, wonderful, wonderful person. Love her very much.
Does anybody else want to come forward?
Hello, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm one of Beverly's many grandchildren. My name is Kelly, and I have a lot of fun memories with Grandma, but my favorite thing about her was her way of sharing Jesus with everybody. She loved people so much, and she shared Jesus, like, she would talk about Jesus, like, all the time, and her love for Jesus was just outstanding, and she shined so bright with God's light that she made a big impact in everyone around her's life, including mine. She was always sharing books, like religious books with people. She was inviting people to church, loving on people, as you heard about the potlucks. One of my favorite memories about her is when my first daughter was about to be born. She came all the way to Georgia to help when she was born, and that's one of the pictures you saw in the slideshow too. And it was just amazing that she would come down there, and like I went overdue, so she was like hanging out for quite a while, and then had brought my great grandpa too, so that was a precious memory. But she used to help with my kids too when they were little. She was always like watching other people's kids and loving on kids. She loved kids, and she was just a bright, shining light, and I know that we will see her again. I look forward to embracing her in heaven.
Stop it. So I'd be the eldest daughter. I showed up 10 months after my mom and dad got married, much to her disappointment. And so I spent the first couple of years with my grandma and my aunt, who is 6 months older than I am, in Minnesota. And so my mom and I had a lot in common. We have a stubborn streak that is a mile long. And I gave her diarrhea on a regular basis, and she gave me hives on a regular basis. So I just want to level the playing field and let everyone know that the reality is that she was a complicated woman. And my grandchildren are nodding because they know I'm telling the truth. And I've been teasing my 12-year-old grandson that he has a very immature grandma, and that she always gets her way regardless. And he has learned this. And I told him today, riding down from Rapid City, because I went to Rapid to pick him up, that I really liked him. And he says, "I love you, Grandma." And I said, loving and liking somebody are two very different things. I loved my mom, and sometimes we did not like each other very much at all. But you know what? She is still my mom, and I was an unexpected pleasure in her life. And like when I was 16, she was the one that took me up to do that airplane ride. She approved that I was capable, after 6 hours of instruction, to solo that plane. I have oftentimes wondered if she had a death wish for me or what the deal was. But I just want you to know she was amazing in many, many ways. She was.
Hi, my name's Nora, and I used to teach at the Adventist school, and she was my angel lady. You know, at the Adventist school, we didn't have a bus or anything, so to get someone to take our kids to go places was sometimes a nightmare, but I could always count on Bev. She was always there, and Gabe, it's nice to see you.
It was in the smile on her face. It was in the twinkle in her eye. It was in the legacy of all of the things that we've heard about and lots that we haven't. It was in her determined forcefulness the last time I saw her 2 days before she died, when my wife and I stopped by in her bedroom, and she was absolutely determined that she would sit up and greet us and sing with us. And Susan and my wife and I said, "It's okay, Beverly, just relax. Just relax. We're just going to visit, we're going to sing, and we're going to pray." The time before that, Beverly had sung with me. She had sung Amazing Grace a cappella and Shall We Gather at the River. And she had sung the words sitting in her roller walker in the kitchen, and alert and attentive and engaged. And I had a chance to share with Beverly one of my favorite passages to share with someone who is facing a deteriorative illness. And that is 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 16 and through 18. The words of the Apostle Paul says, "So we do not lose heart, Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. As we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen, for the things that are seen are transient or temporary, but the things that are unseen are eternal. And Beverly and I talked about the fact that even though her body was decaying, even though death was inevitable, there was an interior connection with Jesus that was stronger that day than it had been the day before. And that's the beautiful thing about our spiritual life. Beverly was 91 years old. She lived a very full life. And at the same time, we can recognize that she barely experienced the spark of what living can totally be. Because we were intended to live forever. That's what God's desire was, and that's the promise that he offers us, is that with friendship with him, with accepting the plan and the gift of redemption, we can live forever. And so this full life of 91 years old was barely the spark of the beginning of what a person can experience through eternity. That's why the wisest man who ever died, King Solomon, said, if you have the choice between a funeral or a party, choose the funeral. It's a reset, it's a recalibration, it's an opportunity to take stock, to take inventory, to look at what really matters, to consider. We like a lot of the things that we've mentioned about Beverly. And it's interesting, it's automatic for us to think about the virtuous things about people at their time of death. It's automatic. It just comes naturally. We start rehearsing them, reciting them, sharing them, reflecting on them. It just comes naturally. And it's important for those who are alive to ask ourselves, how do we want to be remembered? What will our legacy be like? Do we want to be remembered in similar fashion to Beverly, the fullness of life, generous, kind, sweet? I don't want to be remembered as an old lady, but how do we want to be remembered? And funerals give us that opportunity to ask that question. She was sweet and adorable. She was a little old lady. This is the first time that I've officiated a funeral, and there have been many where I remember there being root beer floats offered afterward. And that's a reflection of the fullness of life that Beverly lived. The joy of living, the depth of living, and the joyful nature of finding the best in life. I want to share just a couple of potent thoughts, and I will not keep you long, but please hear me with these observations. What does it mean to truly live? We know people who exist, and we know people who live. I've officiated funerals for people who have only existed, but Beverly arguably understood what it meant to live. And as we observe the lives of others, as we experience life ourselves and we see that there are seasons of both, of existence or living, what makes the difference? Given the choice, would anyone settle for existence rather than truly living? I would suggest that until we've encountered Jesus personally, we've only just been existing. But when we encounter Jesus and accept him in our lives, that is when we truly live. In the Old Testament, in the book of Deuteronomy, God speaks these words. He says, I call on heaven and earth to witness against you today. I have set before you life and death. I've set before you blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life that you and your descendants may live. And then he goes on to explain to the majority of what it means to live. He explains by saying this: love the Lord your God. Obey his voice. Hold fast to him. He is your life and length of days. This original invitation was extended to Moses and the children of Israel, and it's offered today to you and to me. Every death that I encounter is a jolting reminder that God has offered me the choice. And the choice is available to you. And when I face death, I ask myself, what does it mean to truly live? What does it mean, in the words of John Muir, that famous naturalist from the West? Have you cut beneath the veneer of what isn't really life? John said that we should take hold of life and live deeply and suck the marrow out of life. Timothy Keller said it this way. Timothy Keller said, death was not part of God's original design. We were not created to age, to weaken, to fade, and to die. We were not created for love relationships that end in death. Death is an intrusion. It's a result of sin and our human race's turning away from God. Our sense, even now, that we were made to last, that we were made for love without parting, is a memory trace of our divine origin. We're trapped in a world of death, a world for which we were not designed. And Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15 that death is the last enemy that will be destroyed. It is an honor to be part of remembering the legacy of someone like Beverly. And I pray today that each of us that has been here to listen and to witness the remembrance of her life will be challenged to live more deeply, to live more authentically, to make the most of the life that we have, and to draw close to Jesus, because that is where we will have the promise fulfilled that we will be able to spend eternity with Beverly and see her again soon. Those are my thoughts for today, to strengthen and encourage.
I feel better already. I do. I may still feel like crying, but I'm going to tell you, I feel better already. It's such a blessing and a joy to be part of a community that cherished my mom, that cherishes each other in Christ, that we're here to lift each other and to carry that forward. Now, I do want to take a quick moment because I do have some acknowledgments to make. There were so many people that came alongside us in this moment, and we're not done. We still have one more special music to go, so I don't want people to be jumping out of their chairs, but I did want to acknowledge those that came and provided assistance for this event. Then we're going to have a special music and a closing prayer, and then I want to encourage everyone to come downstairs and have fellowship with us. Those of you that are so shy that could not speak publicly, there will be many private conversations downstairs, so I want you to engage with us in those. Now, for the acknowledgments, I first came to Custer over a year and a half ago when my mom fell and broke her shoulder. And at that time, I got to meet Pastor Nathan James. And I want to tell you how grateful I have been for his ministry, not only for Pastor James, but for his wife. Do you know how talented and gifted this woman is? You are truly blessed. Plays the piano. She's doing our audio for us today. So I want to put out a special thank you for them. On the bulletins, just so you know, the memorial bulletins, my son's wife did the final prep of those. They live in Boise, Idaho. She went down to Home Depot and took her flash drive there and had them loaded up and print those bulletins and have them printed here in Rapid City for us to pick up. So she was such a gift and a blessing to come alongside us in this time of need. I wanted to put a thank you out there for her. Now, the easiest thing for my son's wife is, those of you that have remember that my name is Lauren. Her name is also Lauren. So we have two Lauren Jurgensens in my family, which I'll tell you is very confusing. We have not figured out what to do about that, but It's a good thing. Ivy Jurgensen, which is my youngest son's wife, she's the one that did this slideshow. And I'll tell you, she was up this morning. She has a new baby. He's just a little over a month old. But she probably went to bed about 3 a.m. this morning. So I want to put a shout out to Ivy for helping us with that. Jeannie Nunez, I'm hoping I'm saying her name properly. She came and prepared the flowers and the setup, and I'm telling you, she brought so many things, picture frames, whatever was needed to make this event special and gracious for us. Alina Joy, I don't know if Alina Joy is here, but she provided us with a template for the program and also for the slideshow. There are a number of you here that I think brought food and are going to assist in the hospitality later. I don't know you personally, but thank you so much for contributing in that. For those root beer floats, we've talked about them a lot, right? I want to thank Erin and Brent, my niece and her husband and her family. Those root beer floats are waiting for us downstairs, so I want to thank them for bringing them for that. If there is someone that I have missed, I am going to give you a blanket thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here and for helping to contribute in the celebratory moments of my mom's life. I'm going to open this up. So we have a special choir that's going to sing for us today, and I'm hoping that they'll come forward and we're going to enjoy that moment, and it's going to lift us up even further. And then we'll have a benediction and be dismissed.
Giving glory to God for the life of our church member, Bev. I've missed church many times, but I've seen Bev whenever I came to church. She's always downstairs. And we want to thank God for that beautiful legacy. I haven't seen Susan. Where is she? Oh, she's back there. Susan, how come you're sitting back there? Oh. Yeah, we want to thank God for your mom. I had never met your sisters, but I'm seeing them. Yeah, you had such a wonderful mom. And we want to thank God for her. So the song we are going to sing says, God will wipe away our tears. Yeah, it's SDA hymnal number 427.
Machozi yatafutwa, kifo futwang kifo hapa na pale, hawahesabu siku na hapana giza. Machozi yatafutwa, kifo hapana pale, hawahesabu siku na hapana giza.
There is no death in heaven. May we all meet there.
Okay, Pastor James is ridiculously a gracious person, just so you know. His wife Charlotte is downstairs helping with the hall hospitality. Princeton is doing the audio and the accompaniment. They are not married, just so you know. Princeton is not married to Pastor James. So I'm so sorry. It's all on me. I'm gonna give you a quick, I have a quick verse that I want to read, and then Brent is going to come up and provide the benediction. And then we're all going to just take our time. It's not like we're in a rush. We don't have a flight to catch, right? We're just going to meander down the aisle and make ourselves downstairs for our refreshments at that point. But as you've heard, my mom was a pretty fearless person. So I want to read to you a Bible verse. This is Deuteronomy 31:6. And this is the verse that I know my mom and myself, my sister Annie, and my entire family want you to go home with. So Deuteronomy 31:6. And it says, "Be strong and of good courage." Don't you love that? Be strong, be courageous, be brave. Do not fear, do not be afraid. For the Lord your God, He is the one that goes with you, not only with you, but before you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. I know that that is something that I've clung to, that my mom has clung to, and as believers, we know that God is not only with us, but He is going before us. He's beside us, before us, and He knows exactly where we're going in the future. Brent?
Let's bow our heads. Gracious Father, you know what we need long before we know what we need. And we are so blessed that Grandma Bev could be in our lives through her leadership, her love for you, and her example that she set on all of us. Lord, death is hard and it's sad. But you have told us and reminded us repeatedly not to be anxious in anything, but in everything give thanks. And I am thankful that Grandma Bev could be part of my life, part of my family's life, and the impact that she has had on my children. Lord, you're going to be here soon, and we so longfully wait to when we can see Grandma Bev again and hug her. I ask this in your name. Amen.